Welcome to Wuxiaworld's Teahouse Season 2. I'm your host, Yoj.
And I'm Toki. Today we're kicking things off with something new. We're laying the foundation for how we're going to review novels here at the Teahouse. What we look for, how we score, and why it all matters.
So, to make things clearer for our listeners, we've created a review system. Something structured but still flexible. Think of it as our house brew. 7 main ingredients, slow roasted by a couple of nerds who read too much.
Yeah, we're not just handing out numbers for fun, by the way. We want our reviews to be thoughtful, fair, and actually helpful for our listeners. So, whether you're new to a title or wondering if it's worth finishing this book, we're going to walk you through those 7 criteria, explain how we score things, and share a bit about how what we personally look for in each category.
Usually, it's gonna be just the two of us, but sometimes we bring in a couple other voices, so it could be 2 to 4 reviewers total. The final score is an average, but we'll always explain how we got there.
Alright, so let's get into the 7 categories and starting with the most obvious, of course.
Okay, so let's get the mechanics out of the way first. When we review a novel, we rate it using 7 categories. Each gets a score out of 10.
Then we average those to get a final rating. If there's more than one reviewer, which usually is the case because it's more fun that way, we average all the scores together for a total Teahouse score.
Let's say Toki gives the plot an 8 and I give it a 6. We're looking at an average score of 7. But we won't stop there. We'll always explain why. Numbers without context is, just numbers.
And sometimes our differences are the most interesting part. Maybe I was hooked by a twist you saw coming from 10 chapters away.
Or maybe you liked the pacing and I wanted to throw my phone across the room because it was so draggy.
All true, but that's why we do this. Anyway, let's dive into the actual categories now.
First up, plot. This is the big one. It's the meat of the story. What's actually happening? Is there a clear direction, or are we meandering through filler arcs for 200 chapters?
Yoj likes her meat meaty. I'm gonna get called by HR for this.
Yes. I like my meats meaty. I don't like lab-grown vegan meat. Weird thing to comment on, but yeah.
Bless your innocent soul. Anyway, we're looking for things like structure, escalation, surprises that make sense, and payoffs that feel earned. A good plot doesn't have to be complicated, but it does need to hold your attention.
One of the best feelings is reading something where the twist catches you off guard. Like you go back and realize, oh, it was all a setup.
Exactly. But if the plot feels random or like it's constantly inventing shit up by itself, that's where we start talking points. Next up, characters. To me, this is make or break. If I'm not invested in the characters, I don't care how clever the plot is, I don't want it.
Right? Characters drive everything. Are they believable? Do they grow? Are their motivations clear?
And do they feel unique? There's nothing worse than a cast of cookie cutter NPC characters with the only differences they have is hair color, skin color, hairstyle, but the personality is all the same,
And you can't forget the villain who's just there for the hero's growth. Boring.
Bonus points for well-written side characters too, they have their own lore, their background, backstory, and their own growth, their own stories in life. Sometimes side characters exist just to boost the MC's ego with no particular reason except for that, so I hate those.
Oh yeah, I hate characters where they're just for the MC to prove how strong they are as well. They're the worst. Moving on. Writing style. This one's tricky because it's so subjective.
Yeah, so we're not expecting Pulitzer-winning prose, those kind of stories, but we do want clarity, consistency, and, a story that fits the narrative or, a good story in general.
Right. Some stories have that choppy, sharp, rapid-fire burst, and then some stories have a smooth, flowing rhythm. You just get pulled along like you're drifting down a river. Both can work. It just has to be done well.
Yeah, we're paying attention to how sentences work. Are they clunky, clean? Do they trip you up? Or do they guide you through the scene without getting in the way?
It's less about the style itself and more about how well it reads. If I have to reread a sentence 3 times just to get the point, there's a problem. Of course, unless confusion is the point. That's different.
Also, big shout out to good translators and editors, especially in web novels. They do a lot of heavy lifting to make these stories readable.
Absolutely. Our translators and editors make sure that even the messiest story is a clean, stylish one.
Okay, the next one is world building. So, it's especially relevant for anything in the fantasy, shansha, wuxia, or sci-fi space because, I mean, world building, right?
Honestly, world building exists in every story. Even if it's just like modern day Seoul or like a small town cafe, it still exists. So we have to ask, does the world feel real? Lived in? Does it make sense?
Or what are the rules? Are there stakes? Does the power system actually work? Or does it get hand waved every time the protagonist levels up?
Basically, we want a world that holds up under scrutiny. It doesn't have to be Tolkien level deep. It just has to feel, real, more than just a wallpaper. Are we learning about history, culture, factions? Or are we getting one ancient sect and 500 nameless elders?
I mean, personally, for me, it's fine if the world's like mysterious and it doesn't tell you everything from the start, but not if it's empty and bland with only the MC is the real person in it.
Our fifth category, originality. And this is where we ask, what's new here in this novel?
Because let's be honest, cultivation novels, reincarnation plots, system game type worlds, hunter tropes, regression tropes, we've seen them a lot, too much actually.
Yup. But originality doesn't always mean inventing something brand new. Sometimes it could be a clever twist on a trope or a story that breathes life into a tired formula. It just has to give us something different.
I mean, you can tell when an author is playing with the genre.
Yup, and when that happens, it gets big points from us.
Number 6, pacing. This is the one that sneaks up on people.
Yup, sometimes you don't realize pacing is off until you're 10 chapters deep and wondering, why am I bored even though there's stuff happening? We've all read that novel.
Yeah, I mean, good pacing means the story knows when to speed up, when to slow down. It keeps attention, builds emotions, and gives you room to breathe between arcs.
And listen, we know some genres are slow burn, and that's absolutely fine. But even a slow burn has to be engaging.
And if it feels like it's a filler or aimless wandering, a novel title just popped up in my head.
Me too.
We're probably sipping our tea and side-eyeing that score.
And last but not least, quirkiness.
This is our wild category. We made it because some stories are weird in a good way.
Yeah, like sometimes authors experiment with format, or maybe there's a narrator who breaks the fourth wall, or maybe a plot device that's so out there it somehow works. We want that. We want it all.
Or we just like our authors with a few loose screws, a bit of crazy
yes,
in them.
Those are the best. And listen, even if a story is a little messy, its uniqueness makes it memorable. And that's what this category is all about.
So there you have it. Our 7 review categories: plot, characters, writing style, world building, originality, pacing, and quirkiness.
Each gets a score out of 10. We average the total, but the real magic is in the discussion. You'll always hear why we score something the way we did.
We want our reviews to be more than just numbers. We want them to feel like you're chatting with friends over a cup of tea and getting advices or suggestions on what's worth reading next.
Next episode, we'll officially launch this whole system with our review of Regressor Instruction Manual.
Oh well, I guess it's business as usual, right?
Pretty much. Until then, take care, read something weird, and remember,
Every story deserves a good brew. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on Wuxiaworld's Teahouse. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the follow button to stay updated with our latest releases. If you want more tea, hop over to our social media or Discord. And send us an email if you want to spill the tea. We'll be back every Friday of each month, so check out our website, wuxiaworld.com. See you in the next episode. Bye!